Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation is a small game that I played 2-3 years ago mainly, and I remember I was really impressed. It's such a small game, it's a two-player game, which is extremely essential, extremely minimalistic, and tries to give you a sense of the story of Lord of the Rings. It's such an epic story, of course, that it's surprising that somebody even is ambitious enough to try to give you I wouldn't say a simulation, but a taste of that story through a very small game. And that game, Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation, does that quite successfully. I was surprised by how much story is in there. So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw some comments on Board Game Geek that described another game in similar terms as a game that is very simple, very basic, very small, and has a Lord of the Rings theme and somehow manages to convey a surprising amount of theme. The name of the game is Lord of the Rings: The Adventure Deck Game. It is a print-and-play game, a free print-and-play game. You don't need to spend money to purchase the files, you just need to spend some time crafting the game, and some ink will be used, but it's not a large game. It's a game with 55 cards, with a player aid that you also use as a player mat, and instructions. You don't even have to print them if you don't want to, you can just read them on the screen of your computer. And the game is so simple that once you read the instructions once, you won't have any problem. It's a solitaire game in which you represent the Lord of the Rings. No, not you represent the story. The book says you represent Frodo, but the rule book says you represent Frodo. But to me, it's really you represent the story. You're sort of like this entity. You represent the company. You represent the traveling characters, represent the interaction of forces in the story of the Lord of the Rings. And the point, however, is to bring Frodo to the place where he can destroy the ring. Push your luck game, very simple, solitaire. As I said, let me show how the game works. The game is played with the help of a player aid / player mat. It has a day track here, which is also a turn track. You have 25 turns to complete your mission. You have a Witch King track. This is where you place tokens to indicate that the Witch Kings are after you. If there ever are 3 tokens on the track here, then you lose the game. That's one of the ways that in which you can lose the game. Also here you have a space where you place a token to indicate that you use the magic ring. If you use it once, the first time that you use it, then you place it there. You do not remove it, it simply indicates that the ring has been used. And after the ring has been used, if even once, certain things will change in the game, certain game effects will apply that wouldn't otherwise. Here you have an area to record treasures and magic items that you may find, and you simply place a token to indicate the items that you found. Health track, you start with 10 health points, and you move whatever token you're using down to indicate that you have lost health points when you receive wounds, and you move it up when you recover. If you ever go down to 0 health points, then you lose the game. The other way in which you lose the game is if you do not complete the mission by the end of the 25th turn. To complete the mission, you use this deck of cards here, which really is the heart of the game, and you need to go through the deck. The cards represent the legs of your trip to reach Mordor and to throw the ring in the lava. And you need to go through the deck, to travel through the entire deck to be able to win the game. As for the cards have here a number, which is the aggression number. It simply indicates the number of hit points that you receive when you draw that card. It's an abstract way of representing all of the dangers that you're facing, the things that are threatening you, the damage that you take, and so on and so forth. So each number here represents a number of points that you will lose, of health points that you will lose when you draw that card. There may be effects here at the bottom, special effects that are self-explanatory. When the effect applies, you simply implement the instructions of the effect. And here you have numbers that indicate the possible directions that you can travel. Yes, some of these cards represent characters, but you have to think of them mainly as locations, as crossroads. So if this is the active card right now, the card that I'm resolving, after I resolve the effects of the cards, I can choose to go in one of these directions, 2, 3, or 4. In most cases, it's just the number that matters, so you're going in a direction that will make you draw 2 cards, or 3, or 4. In some cases, there are game effects that says if you go to the right, so if you choose that direction, that number, then certain things may happen, certain conditions may apply. So, but the main idea is that you are choosing a direction which indicates a number of cards. So in a turn, you will simply look at the active card and look at the possible directions that are there, and then you will choose the number of, well, you choose the direction, and then you will draw the corresponding number of cards. Suppose that I decide to go in this direction to travel forward, and then I draw 3 cards. As you draw cards, you only look at the numbers here. You do not care about the text of the effect. So to travel in that direction, I need to draw 3 cards. The first one is 0. The second one is 3, I'm keeping count, and the last one is 2. So I had a total of 5 aggression points, 5 wound points that I suffer for traveling that direction. I record the loss of those points there. Once you've done that, then you read and implement the effect of the last card only. So see, I drew 3 cards, the numbers on the aggression section all applied, but only the effect of the last card that you draw when you're traveling applies, and only that is the effect that you implement. This is great because it means that in different games you will not face the same characters, you will not have to deal with the same effects and consequences. Sometimes you skip a card simply, or you skip the effect because you're only looking at the numbers. Some of the time certain effects will be triggered and different chains of events will be triggered therefore. Once you have resolved your turn, that is by taking hit points, by losing health points and implementing the effect, you may rest. In some cases, resting is optional. If you're in a day turn, the ones indicated here by the sun, you can choose to rest. When you rest, you recover all of your health points, but you have to skip a turn. So basically, you go to the following turn, to the following day turn. And you start from there. So you recovered health, but you lost time. During night turns, which are the ones indicated by the moon symbol, at the end of the night turn, you rest automatically. You do not need to take an action or pay a penalty. You simply recover. So you will recover automatically all of your health every other turn, but you can choose to recover more often if you decide to take the rest action during a day turn. During your turn, before you draw cards, you can also choose to wear the ring. That makes you invisible, and that means that as you travel, you will ignore all of the aggression numbers that you will draw. So that is excellent if you are in a location that will allow you to go through a lot of cards. For example, one of the possible directions is a 5, then you rush through 5 cards that you're not likely to survive otherwise. Wearing the ring, and you ignore all of the aggression numbers, but each time that you wear the ring, the Witch Kings take notice, and you add a token to that track, which of course exposes you to the danger that then they may lose the game, especially if then there are game effects that will add more cards, that will add more tokens to that track. This is the basic idea. The rules are super simple. What really creates a story, what really makes the game interesting is simply the way in which the effects are chained together. You may have some good effects, for example, Arwen may allow you to, well, will allow you to remove all witch tokens from the play mat. That's super important. If you travel forward, this is one of those cases, as I mentioned earlier, in which the direction matters. Any card you draw with an attack value of 0, consider it a 2. So that's a dangerous path if you decide to take it. the total attack value of the next turn is reduced by 2. That is good. See, you find allies along the way that help you, but you may also find locations that are tricky. For example, here, if you travel to the right, you may not rest at your next destination, and you cannot heal wounds. Aragorn, super important because it'll allow you to remove a wish token. You can also choose to go back to him, even if you're past that card, but that will cause a penalty. You will have to face a penalty in time that you waste. The Witch King adds witch tokens. Always resolve this card effect, so if you have other tricky things that would usually allow you not to resolve it, too bad you had to resolve it. You move back 3 cards, including this one, and you resolve the card effects in normal. Move back means you move back those cards into the deck, which also means that for that effect, and many other effects actually, there are cases where you put cards back from the pile, the discard pile, back into the active deck, the adventure deck, the one that you're trying to go through. Oh, look who's here, Sauron. If you have yet to use the ring, proceed as normal. If you have used the ring, search the discard deck for all Witch Kings and shuffle them back into the deck. That can be super painful. I'm just trying to find some other interesting effects to show you. I think you get the gist. There are game effects that will allow you to go faster, to reduce the number of aggression points that you face, and nice, cool items that you get. And then there are enemies. This is one that is particularly annoying because if you encounter the orcs, your hit points are permanently reduced by 1 point. The trolls also are particularly annoying, but I can't find them now. I'm gonna steer it, pick 5 random cards from the discard pile and shuffle them back into the deck. So this is the idea. You go through the deck, you rest, you push your luck to rush to certain areas of the game, through certain areas of the magical, fantastic land that you're traveling, and you're hoping to make it to Mordor by the end of turn 25 without being caught by the Witch Kings and without being killed also. That's kind of important too. This is wow, what a surprise. This is a free game, but trust me, I paid for many games that were not nearly as good, as thematic and as smart as this one. This is a really smart game. I'm really impressed. I think that somebody prints it and makes a professional copy, and then I'm like, no, not really, because then you would have to pay for it. You can just have your own free copy tonight in your home. It's a great game. It's really, really fun. The choices are tough. Now, Push Your Luck, the choices are tough in a sense. It's like, well, draw cards or not draw cards. Here, you have to choose how many cards you want to draw. And you also need to try to plan ahead a little bit, because if you really find yourself exhausted at the end of a day, you start the day all rested because you healed at the end of the previous night turn. So if you just travel like crazy, which is tempting to do, you may find yourself so exhausted at the beginning of the night turn, at the end of which, if you're still alive, you can rest, but maybe you're so exhausted at the beginning that actually you won't even make it to the point of the night where you can rest at the end. So you have to remember this. It's tempting when you start the day turn at the maximum strength to just do some crazy stuff. But there are a lot of these choices. Choosing how many cards to draw is really interesting. It's a more interesting choice that you have in other Push and Luck games, in which the choice that you have is to keep going or not to keep going. Here is like, how much can I do? And you have resources that you can choose to spend if you find treasures to affect that. And you have other choices based on the effects. You can choose to do certain things that will increase the odds of something else happening. But what I really enjoy immensely is the fact that all cards have an effect printed on them, but not all effects are used all games, and they are not, of course, used in the same order. In one game, Arwen will help you, and then the Witch Kings will still hunt you down, and the trolls will smash you, and you'll get lost trying to get out of some strange woods, completely covered in fog, and then you will die at the gates of Minas Tirith. And some of the games, the game will go in a completely different ways. Legolas and Gimli will be with you all the time, and Aragorn will show up very often. Things will be easy apparently until all of a sudden Sauron sees you, and then all of the Witch Kings come at you and destroy you. And other times Aragorn doesn't show up at all, and you're like, darn, you're Aragorn, you're supposed to be here and lend a hand. So it's surprising how much replay value there is in here. It's always the same deck of 55 cards, but you use 15, 20 effects per game, some more, some less, which changes things entirely. You have resources you can spend. You can choose whether to use the ring or not. You can choose to rest, trading health, trading time for health. So a lot of decisions in what at the core is such a simple push or luck game, and a lot of theme and a lot of story. At the end, I do have the sense that the deck did tell me a story, did tell me a variant of the Lord of the Rings. It's almost like listening to different people that are telling you the story as they remember it, and they all remember it in different ways. And somehow the way these different people remember the story is still fun to experience. So this is a really good game. Lord of the Rings, the adventure deck game. It's a solitaire game that if you like the Lord of the Rings, so if you like good solitaire games, if you like push your luck, I don't think you can go wrong with this one. I was really surprised and really impressed. Probably one of the best print and play games that I ever played. That's not the majority of the games that I play, but I played quite a bit over the years, and I would say this is really a find. I was really happy to be able to find this one, quite by chance really, going through the list of Board Game Geek. But oh boy, this is a fun one. Tough, challenging, definitely hard to beat. It took me at least 5 or 6 tries before I was able to win, and even that time it wasn't a comfortable win. And of course, the more you play the game, the better you get at, but I don't think it's a game that will get any stale anytime soon. And if it becomes too easy at some point, then you simply start with a lower maximum health, and trust me, if you keep adjusting that, there will be a point where the game will become challenging enough for anybody. So Lord of the Rings, the adventure deck game, highly recommended. Get the files, get your printers, get some cardboard, glue and scissors or X-Acto blade, whatever it is that you are going to use, because definitely this is a game that is worth printing, making and playing over and over and over again, which you will, because it's such a good game.